अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of our weekly podcast, News Laundry Hafta. I am your host, Abhinandan Sekhri. In the studio today, while Manisha Pandey is on leave and Anand Vardhan is educating young IAS aspirants, I'm guessing somewhere. In the studio is Raman Kirpal, editor-in-chief.
Hello.
Shardool Katyayan,
Hello.
our in-house doer of many things, including one of those rare skills where he's English and Hindi as good, so he can translate either way and rewrite things like very few can. I can only do Tamil to Punjabi, and both sides of my family just jumped off a building. And joining us
And Jayashree is learning Hindi.
On that note,
on that note,
Yeah.
our authentic Tamil in the house is Jayashree Arunachalam, joining us from Chennai. Hi, Jayashree.
hello.
Joining us in the studio during this podcast will be two guests. Nirmalya Mukherjee will be joining us to talk about Kolkata and Bengal and the disturbance and the violence there following protests against the Waqf Amendment. And also joining us later will be Priya Sahgal, who is the editorial director of NewsX, where we shall talk about the National Herald case, as the Gandhis have been now questioned by the ED, right?
They have been questioned several times.
But this time they've attached their property.
No, this time the two things have happened. One is the charge sheet, and now the ED has issued a notice to
Attach their
attach the
properties.
properties.
Right.
And properties is the main thing. Otherwise, National Herald was closed, for a long time.
Yeah. And in fact, we'll talk about how flawed the entire logic of, I mean, of course, there are many aspects to this. We shall talk about it when we get there. But before we get to the headlines, I would like to first of all thank our subscribers who have kind of inched up our project, the impunity of India's police, from Tamil Nadu to Kerala, Maharashtra to West Bengal. There's a QR code, and you can see the project on your screens right now. It's a project that will take us to 5 states, and at least 7 producers and correspondents will travel to at least 5 states, probably more. It'll cost us 13,40,000. We have collected 11,25,000 right now. We're just about 1.5 lakh short, 2 lakhs short, and I'm sure you shall top it up. So please do so. We will have another very creative appeal in the middle sometime by Jayashree.
God.
So you can just flash the QR code and contribute to that project so that our journalism always grows, is sustained, remains ad-free, so we can demonstrate that there is an alternative model to news and journalism, because it's very important in today's day and age. Of course, in India, it's been happening for a long time. We've been calling this out forever, but now we see it's happening in other parts of the world as well. On that note, let's get the headlines. Jayashree, please do the honors.
Yes. So here are the headlines for the week. Violence erupted in West Bengal's Murshidabad after protests against the Waqf Amendment Act spiraled into communal unrest. At least 3 people died. Over 200 have been arrested. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has said the violence is pre-planned. She's also alleged a conspiracy where the BSF worked in tandem with central agencies and the BJP.
That's a big allegation.
The ED has filed its charge sheet against Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi for alleged money laundering in the National Herald case. The central agency has also moved to seize properties worth 660 crores that are linked to the case. Electric cab operator Blue Smart has suspended services. This is days after SEBI accused its co-founder of diverting funds meant to purchase vehicles to buy a luxury apartment. So this has left thousands of drivers without work.
And of course, a golf set for 21 lakh, and I don't know what else the Jaggi brothers bought
I
with
know.
public funds.
The Andhra Pradesh Cabinet on Tuesday approved the allotment of land measuring 21 acres in Visakhapatnam to TCS. This is for a token lease price of 99 paise. The company says it's going to invest over 1,300 crores to set up a development center that will create 12,000 jobs.
The interesting would be to read between the lines. I mean, they are giving it for 99 paisa. Like in Delhi also, all the hospitals have been given the land just for a rupee. But the caveat was that they have to
25%
admit
of
at
the
least
beds.
20% of the this
Right.
thing. And then what happens MLAs have been recommending their own relatives
Mm,
under
Yeah.
that quota, and
mm,
it was never done. So I always used to wonder why. I mean, and all, look at Apollo, look at all the hospitals. They all are commercial hospitals.
in
So
NCR.
so why the land should be given just for a rupee?
Right.
But this is also the story of Foxconn, right? Wasn't it in Wisconsin or whatever, where they procured a lot of land? They said they were setting up thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
jobs because
correct. It
it
And
didn't
is
like,
quid pro
happen.
quo. It's nothing
and
else. I
see,
mean,
Right.
I mean, if there's in America, the logic is there's competitive federalism, right?
Hmm.
Every state
Yeah.
wants you to come so they can give you benefits, and it may not be fair, but one sees the logic in the sense that each state is vying for, because if you want to win, you have more jobs created because of stuff like this. But the jobs don't come as promised, and that's happening all
Yeah.
too frequently. And in Delhi, I remember there was this proposal during AAP's first term. They want to set up a website that in real time you should be able to just log, because someone from the economic bakers section goes to the hospital, says, I want a bed. They said the 20% quota is full.
Mhm.
Now it's only the paying quota. And actually it's not full.
Mhm.
So they had said there should be a real time display that suppose before I even head out, if I'm
Mhm.
poor, I can just go to a website,
Right.
see which hospital the quota is there, where there is a bed available.
yeah,
Right.
So
the,
there's full transparency that who is occupying your bed, and then automatically that audit won't be necessary now and then, because
Yes.
you'll be able to check real time
Yes.
how much of this quota was fulfilled. But it didn't
Yes.
end up
But
happening
it's not
eventually.
that difficult to set up. And coming to
It's very
TCS,
easy.
TCS is the biggest IT service provider from India,
Hmm.
probably in the world. Their market cap is beyond
Yeah, they have
anybody
enough
else.
money to buy
Like,
it. That's
why
true.
why do they need this 99 paisa land?
Right, correct.
Give it to a startup if you really want to give it to someone.
Well, the startup, anyway, we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
We can talk, you can watch this week's nuisance for the startup stories.
right. Next is in my home state, AIADMK chief Edapadi K. Palaniswamy said his party's newly formed alliance with the BJP is only for the 2026 Tamil Nadu Assembly elections. He says there will be no coalition government if the alliance wins the polls. This is after Amit Shah said the BJP and the ADMK would contest in an alliance. And can I just say that they are contradicting each other, but very badly, which is that Amit Shah very categorically last week was asked, so would the ADMK and the BJP form a coalition government if you do happen to win or whatever in the 2026 polls? And he said, yes. This man, EPS, has now waited a week to say, no. He's saying, no, you're misconstruing. He's saying what he actually meant is that we will form the government together. As in, the BJP will form it in Delhi, we will form it in Tamil Nadu, and that together.
That's a creative interpretation. Very nice.
Yes.
Cheers. Cheers.
Right. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has claimed Muslim youths would not have had to fix punctures if Waqf land had been properly used for the benefit of the community.
I saw that speech.
Nice.
He knows exactly what he's doing, and he does it very cleverly.
In news from the courts, the Supreme Court has proposed to stay some provisions of the recently passed Waqf Amendment Act, including the inclusion of non-Muslims in Waqf boards and the denotification of properties declared as Waqf.
So this is where the government Express has a good story,
Yeah.
pointing out even earlier, whenever Supreme Court wanted to stay something, so they will guess it just to preempt it.
The
The
center
government
holds
will
it back,
say that
yes.
yes,
So that's what the government has done. It's held
Ah,
back.
they held back. They said, "Ki, okay,
amendments.
we will not implement them,
Yes.
so you don't need to stay."
Right.
Yeah, and it's not implementing them until the next hearing, which is May 5th. Now, the Supreme Court has also directed the Telangana government to develop a plan to restore 100 acres of land in the Kancha Gachibowli forest area near the University of Hyderabad campus. Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna has recommended the appointment of Justice Bhushan Ramakrishna Gavai as his successor.
Sorry, he'll be taking over next Thursday, right? And
May 13th is retiring.
Okay, sure. That's
So
next to next
thereafter,
Thursday. Got it.
And the Supreme Court rejected a plea challenging the use of Urdu on a municipal signboard in Maharashtra. The court said prejudice against Urdu stems from the misconception that Urdu is alien to India.
This was
It's good.
actually the court's observation were pretty good in this case. I was
Ah.
reading on Live Law.
Yeah, I mean, Urdu is
it's
an
not a
Indian
foreign
language.
language.
Yeah,
Urdu
it
is an
a-
Indian language. It's a beautiful language. Just because some hairbrand people don't like it.
Exactly.
Now, after a landmark Supreme Court judgment which set a 3-month deadline for president and governors to clear bills, the vice president, Jagdeep Dhankar, has hit out at the judiciary. He says we cannot have a situation where courts direct the president. He said Article 142 has become a nuclear missile against democratic forces.
As if, this guy,
Was
I've
listening
noticed.
listening to Hafta and he heard what you said last time and said, "Let me prove Raman Kirpal right."
No. He is a lawyer by profession, and I think the government, the union government, has just left him alone to speak on the judicial matters. If you see, even in the past,
Yeah.
he has made around 5 to 6 such statements.
Yeah.
Whenever Supreme Court will come up with something, he has to just contradict. So whenever some new appointment of the judges happen, he has to
In
contradict.
fact, last Hafta you had said that his track record right from West Bengal, so he has proved you rather
Yes.
correct.
This guy is a
But
proper master G.
But
He
what
acts like that.
But what I love is that he has tippani to give to all this. But I love the tippani he gives to governors when they don't do their job.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
nothing. He does nothing there. Otherwise, he'll pelo ingyan all the
Pelo
time.
Also, I was very surprised that the Times of India had a very, very hard-hitting editorial today where they said that the position of vice president is a ceremonial role. So it said, we urge all readers of this newspaper to realize that no matter what the VP says, his post means his comments must be discounted entirely. So, right, 7 people have been booked for allegedly murdering a Dalit farmer and setting his body on fire in a village in Prayagraj.
Yeah, this was a very ghastly story. I read it.
Yeah. Fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi has been arrested in Belgium. This is after India made an extradition request.
Let's see when he comes back. This one is back, of course. Rana. Rana.
Yes. In America, Donald Trump's administration has frozen more than $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard University. This is after Harvard said it would defy demands to overhaul its policies and curb activism on campus.
This is actually a very good sign because following this, Columbia University, which earlier had capitulated, has suddenly found a spine, issued a statement. And I think, I don't know how many, but dozens of, if not scores of professors from Cornell or Yale, one of the two, have signed a letter saying our university also should take a stand.
Yeah.
And following this show of defiance, of course, the equivalent of the tax department like we have here in the US,
IRS,
is expected to cancel their tax exemption status, Harvard's, like they do here. FCRA
In
cancel
fact,
kar diya.
one of my recommendation is that we should read the letter as issued by the Trump administration to Harvard, and then the Harvard's reply to it.
To them, yeah.
Both of them are available, beautifully worded, and it's a telltale. I mean, you don't need to go anywhere else.
Right.
And finally, in the UK, the Supreme Court has ruled the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. So those are the headlines for the week.
Right. On that note, I'd like to welcome our guest who's joining us from Bengal. Hi, Nirmalya. Did I pronounce that correctly? Nirmalya?
Yes, thank you very much. Tell me.
Okay, so I will just first formally introduce you to our audience. You are a journalist and columnist. You're based in Kolkata. You have been in the news industry for 4 decades, and you worked at the Indian Express, the Financial Express, the Telegraph, Business Standard, in New Delhi, Ranchi, Bhubaneswar, and Kolkata. So thanks for making the time. Just give us an overview of the violence in Murshidabad, the accusations and counter accusations, and there was a clip of Mamata Banerjee that the BJP had shared, which suggested that, well, if not provoking, she was kind of pre-justifying violence if it follows, because that's the only way to block this. How much truth is there? How much grey is there? And what is the situation on the ground in Bengal?
See, I can tell you this much, that this time it's a little different because elections are only 10 months away, 9-10 months away. And this is the first time that Bengal is going to face a situation where religion has become a very important issue. And as you know that BJP is considered, I consider BJP as a Hindu party, and Mamata does Muslim politics.
Hmm.
The left does class politics, and Congress does
No
politics.
politics. Congress does no politics.
So you cannot say, because BJP doesn't have a mask. They openly say that we are for Hindus. So all the other communities, they are mostly either with us or not with us. But they are not us. That is the main thing. They have a thin line. Regarding the other parties, secularism is a big shield they use. In some cases, the leftists use the world imperialism and all these things. They bring in America, they bring in China, the different issues they come up. But ultimately, all the four parties that is operating in Bengal, they at the base, after BJP emerged, here are religious parties.
Right.
We have to accept that.
Okay.
So my view is that since religion is becoming religion, you see, it's an easy take. And at the same time, it's very hard take. What has happened in Murshidabad is an incident. In Bengal, I have been watching for such a long time, also in Delhi, when I was in Delhi. There were a lot of things, lot of issues, events like this. But those events were suppressed. During the left regime, during the Congress regime, we never used to write. We always said that it was a clash between two types of miscreants and all these things. We were trained in that way only. So this is the first time that the media is also coming out saying it is the Hindus and the Muslims, basically. So it has become a reality. And why it has become a reality? Because the political parties, actually, they do play religious cards.
So there is a huge exodus of Hindus from those villages because they are under mortal threat from Muslim mobs or communities. Is that correct?
No. That's a wrong view.
Right, because that is what legacy media is showing us, right? That all these Hindus are fleeing, etc.
Suppose, see, Abhinandan, I am living with you. You live next door to me. Suddenly, one morning, I come up and I kill you. So, unless there is a provocation, this never happens with certain interest. And that provocation could be a state provocation, could be an international provocation, and that the provocators are successful, that they have been able to titillate these idiotic, foolish political parties who do play religious games for their own benefit. In Bengal, this thing has emerged mostly in Bengal after BJP retained its almost 40% vote in two consecutive elections. In 2021 and again in 2024. They were almost 40% in 2019. So from 2019 onwards, this has happened. And the biggest, I should say, the biggest curse, what has happened to Bengal is that Narendra Modi ruling the country twice in an unitary fashion. Unitary rule somehow gave an impression that Hindu consolidation is a must in Bengal. And that created advantages for Mamata and advantages for BJP also.
But for nobody else. It kind of wiped out all the other presence. So it just became...
The other presences, the other political parties are virtually washed out.
So it is quite clear that Mamata actually does a lot of what they call appeasement and pandering. And because that is...
Yes, definitely. Yeah. If the BJP wallahs, if they feel that Hindu consolidation is essential, in that case, Mamata and even before Mamata, the left also went in for left consolidation, Muslim consolidation.
Because it's basically...
In 2011, 8% of the vote shifted and left was out of power. They were 235, they came down to 40. Only 8% shift. Of that, 6.5% was Muslim vote.
Right. So it's basically in Bengal, the Muslim vote is significant enough to make or break your government. Now, of course, if you notice, and this, I guess, is with the eyes on the Bengal election, Mahua Moitra kind of tweeted about it. And because the English and Hindi media is completely beholden to the BJP. They didn't make, I mean, they make a big deal of far less. Those two saffron-clad BJP or Sangh-inclined men who are trying to force fish shops to shut down in Chittaranjan Park, that have been there forever, for as long as Chittaranjan Park is. They were picked up by the police within 2 days. Otherwise, in Delhi, there is video of Hindu men beating up Muslims. Our own case of our correspondent, our reporter, being roughed up by the Hindu goons when they went to cover that. No arrest, nothing happened. But in this, immediately arrest happened because, dude, you mess with the fish and you lose in Bengal. So has it ever happened in Delhi that in 2 days, the police has found the guys and arrested them?
No, then there was a meme
Hmm.
that the Bengalis are saying ki mandir ko hata do.
Fish market.
So there could have been a riot over these memes. I mean, if you see
Right.
on small things, you are saying that move the temple out, but fish market is going to stay.
But just one more question, then I'll come back to the rest of the panel to get their views. And this goes to Nirmalya once again. Nirmalya, I just want to understand. Now, Mamata has won 3 terms as chief minister, which is also not a small thing, you know. Just like Modi has won 3 terms as prime minister. Mamata, she's fighting her fourth term now. They have tried this. I remember the last election, the Hindu-Muslim became a big thing. The BJP really, tried the Hindu politics, but it didn't work. She came back with a very convincing majority and she really thumped the BJP. The BJP tried that in Delhi in the last election when they tried to fight on Hindu-Muslim when those riots happened in 2020. AAP came back. So in Bengal and Delhi, the Hindu-Muslim politics didn't work. Why do they think it'll work this time? Because it hasn't worked for them last time, right?
There is a thin line. You see, in Bengal, Muslim and women, these are the 2 main pillars for Mamata. So the women vote, most of the women vote because of Lakshmi Bhandar and all these things, had gone into Mamata. And that even could not offset BJP too much. The difference was only 7%. But the constituencies are distributed in such a way, the difference became huge. BJP was shot up to 77 and Mamata went up to 250. And in 2021 and in 2024, BJP slipped to 12 from 18 to 12 and Mamata went up from 21 to 20.
So it's not working. This Hindu card is not working for them. Why are they trying it again and again?
Be able to say that had that been the case, how could have BJP got 2 crore 31 lakh votes out of 7 crore 80 lakh votes? That is a huge amount. And you will be surprised to know that BJP lost by only 100 votes in 31,000 booths out of the total 82,000 booths. Because BJP people could not reach the booths. They don't have that organization.
Oh, so okay, right.
If
she
have the organization, and the second part is that in Bengal, population, there are 5.5 crore Hindu voters, 2 crore 40 lakh Muslim voters. The total vote is around 1 crore 90 lakhs for the Muslims, and for the Hindus, it is only 50%. So, that is the only reason Shubhendu Adhikari is harping on raising the polling percentage. Polling percentage in Bengal is always around 70%, like in your Delhi. 1.5 crore voters, 90 lakh people came for voting. So 50 lakhs simply just vanished. Had they cast their vote, what would have happened? Nobody knows.
Right.
Here,
so it's a question of increasing the actual the numbers.
That is the whole aim. Hindus do not vote. Muslims give a consolidated vote and it is 95%. Mamata has reached a saturation. Like BJP has reached a saturation in Uttar Pradesh with Ram Mandir and all these issues.
Just specifically about Murshidabad though, what is your opinion of the TMC's general response? Because I think the majority of Murshidabad's MLAs are from the TMC. Yes. All its MPs are from the TMC. But other TMC legislators are accusing the local MLAs of losing touch with the ground, of not knowing what's going on, of leaving their houses. And then Mamata now is throwing everything, right? She's saying it's Bangladeshi infiltrators. She's saying there's that conspiracy with the BSF. Then also now saying there's some PFI conspiracy of playing some role. So how do you view this entire response?
In my opinion, Mamata is a very smart politician.
Yeah.
The first thing she did, she said, the three places, Shamsherganj, Dhulian, and
Yeah.
Chuti, they come under the Congress's constituency.
So it's
Isha
there.
Khan Chaudhary. So that's the first passing of the buck,
Right.
which means she is justifying. Then she moves on to BSF.
Yeah.
And then she moves on to international questions, Bangladesh and all these things. So she is digressing, going on digressing, which shows that she is justifying the violence in a different way. And in the last meeting with the Muslim religious leaders, she was very outspoken and she went into all non-issues. Amit Shah versus Narendra Modi, how Abhishek Banerjee is being heckled, and all these things, because they had no meaning. What will the Dharma Gurus do with all these issues? The staff, the SSC cauldron, and all these things.
Got
So
it, right.
always trying to digress, which when she digresses, that is her way of dealing in politics. Whenever she really faces any challenge, as far as I have seen her, she is absolutely very smart and cool, and she immediately diverts things. And she can even go to the moon, and she can even talk about Newslaundry if required.
Okay, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
But I feel like any sort of violence or a riot, right? In my opinion, the behavior should and does fall on whoever controls law and order, which is the
Yes.
state. Like whoever started it, who's at fault. Like these are issues they can discuss. But at whatever level or detail that you're examining it, culpability will lie with the police. There's that quote, in India, no riot can happen without the complicity of the state.
Yes.
And so in the case of the TMC, I mean, it's either complicity or it's grave incompetence, because this sort of deflection and diversion, I feel like could work for only so long, but...
Or a person on whom anti-incumbency has not worked for 3 elections. Do you think the police can work there? When the anti-incumbency does not work on a ruler, the ruler, whoever it may be, Mr. Modi has been cut to size.
Correct.
He has been jumping too much. Indian democracy has cut him down to 240. Okay? And he has realized the fact. Mamata is yet to realize it. She still feels. She started off with 183. She went up to 211. Then she went up to 215. Now she's 221. If she goes up to 240, do you think that the state administration can work?
actually, that's very interesting. I mean, Nirmalya has really broken it down. It's basically Bengal is the inverted version of what's happening nationally with Modi.
Correct.
And that kind of complete dominance of, her politics in the state has made her, reckless and also just so confident of her, base not abandoning her. And also the lack of any other party as an option. Like, in Delhi, Congress did emerge as an option, although they still got 0 seats, but they cut a lot of AAP votes because the Muslim consolidation here didn't happen like it has in the past.
Right.
But sir, you saw the videos, and of course, there's clearly violence there. Mamata's speech did not seem like the speech of someone who was cracking down on, violence in a no-nonsense way with real meaning. You think that this entire her vote having been saturated and BJP is not, is, as Nirmalya says, something that could, occur this time because the Hindu-Muslim thing hasn't worked for them in the past over there?
But Nirmalya also told very nicely that 50% of the Hindu votes are not. So they
don't
have
make it.
succeeded. They have succeeded in consolidating Hindus in West Bengal, but they have not been able. They don't have the paraphernalia or the kind of network which can take these Hindus to the
Polling booth.
polling booth. So I think this is the as of now, we used to think that, in fact, I also used to think with 215, every election she is increasing her lead and she's getting more. So maybe the BJP is failing in its plan, in its campaign. But as he has put it very nicely, and it looks quite logical. I mean,
The numbers kind of,
their strategy is working,
but they're not being converted into votes.
Yeah, so they
The
will.
consolidation is
So
happening.
I think the consolidation has happened, but now they need to take these Hindus to the polling booth, and I think all of us know that since, I mean, all days when CPM used to rule, so they knew that in which particular pockets are going to vote against them.
Yeah, and they would
So
not
they
get
used
to
to
vote.
stop them.
Yeah, they wouldn't
So
get
here
to vote.
also, I mean, we hear stories in Delhi that Mamata Banerjee is not letting these people
Get to the polling booth. In fact, in Bengal, the stated trigger for this violence is protests against the amendments to Waqf.
Right.
And some allies of the BJP have also made some murmurs which would make the BJP uncomfortable, because it is leading to some sort of discontent among their electorate, whether it is in Telangana or whether it is in Bihar. So that also may have something to do with the step back.
Right.
But of course, there the violence has not reached any levels of significance. But before we get back to Nirmalya, sorry Nirmalya, go ahead, then I'll come to Shardul. Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, I'll tell you something. Mamata became the chief minister without being an MLA or sitting in opposition in the West Bengal Assembly. Now, Mamata has learned not to lose. Modi had also learned not to lose until 2024. Mamata similarly has learned not to lose because she has won for 3 consecutive terms. And she is not going to give in so easily. That is, for that, she will use whatever soft target is available. Now, these BJP people, the big mistake they are making is that they are taking on the first occasion, they took Mamata head on corruption. Corruption became a non-issue. Mamata won. Now they have taken up religion. So they are trying different alternatives to move into Bengal, which shows that BJP is yet to understand the real sentiment of Bengal. Why this difference of 5%, 6% remains? At one time, CPIM thought that they will never lose in their entire life. On the 7th term, they lost. Congress at one time felt that they will never lose. Congress also lost in their 7th term. So the two big parties, they lost for their 7th term. But Mamata is not a party. Mamata is almost a family party. It moves like a family. She is the only member. The remaining are all her subordinates. She behaves in such a way. And Narendra Modi also wanted to paint BJP in that way, but he was criticized by RSS. That is a different issue. But he understood that you should also learn to lose. Mamata should understand that she must learn how to lose, and for that, BJP is solely to be blamed. The bigger mistakes they make,
the more she benefits. Right. You were saying, Shardul.
So, I have a lot to say. With respect, I refuse to accept this framing on the debate. One, would we be framing our arguments in the same way if it was a state governed by BJP and not TMC? One, and I and I think you also agree with this. Nobody rules us. So, that dream is gone. Two, there are numerous videos of terrorized women, children running away.
Right, from villages.
So, apologies for my voice. I have a health condition today. So, if some of our listeners say that. Third, there were violence on smaller scale in South 24 Pargana, Malda, Hooghly. Our arguments, our ways and our approach to discuss this subject would be different if it was a state governed by BJP. as media, I don't care about, I'm sorry if it hurts somebody's feelings, I don't give a rat's ass about BJP or TMC. People were killed, 2 of them, they were dragged out of their houses. There are many videos
And there's
online.
enough
You can see the
evidence.
violence, right? When like her cabinet minister, it was like urban development and municipal affairs and housing minister said that people are migrating within Bengal, so they are safe. What kind of harebrained argument is this? And we are just discounting it.
Which is also what happened in Jammu and Kashmir, right? They
Yeah.
came from Srinagar to Jammu. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
like, I don't care what Mamata wins or not. That's her politics. Like, when we discuss politics, we'll make those arguments. There is no doubt that the administration was lacking in its response, lacking in its intelligence. Like, if she has governed the state for almost 20 years now,
they'd know what's happening on the ground.
they should know. And like in Bengal, we know how it works. Everybody knows about cut money. Are you telling me there are no TMC people on the ground in that? Out of 24 seats, 20 are with TMC, Vidhan Sabha seats in that region, like Jayashree mentioned. One other thing, if you are protesting, and the point about provocation. Like,
and what was the protest, by the way? Was it being led by a particular leader? It was, I mean, I haven't got
we're
much.
not sure yet. But leave that for a minute. The point about provocation, like, what's this provocation? I said it, I think, last week also. The easiest business in India is hurt feelings. It requires no capital and the profit is perfect. Now, what are you talking about? If your feelings are hurt, how does that give anybody the right to oppress or do violence against someone who's maybe prospectively, maybe in that situation weaker, be it economical, be it numbers? You cannot do this. Either we are living in a democracy or we are not. And decide on this. If violence is allowed, then everybody is allowed violence. BJP gives the same arguments, doesn't it, in a different state? And we go hammer and tongs against them. I have no love for them. But Mamata has proven again and again in RG Kar, and she is in trouble. To make the point about politics, she is in trouble because the teachers have been suspended by Supreme Court. The other cases coming up.
And in fact, she has said that she will, I mean, I don't know how she'll do that, but she's kind of suggested that she will not comply by the Supreme Court order. She hasn't said it in so many words, but the first response after that was that, don't worry, I'll
do something.
So, of course, I mean, she can get them suspended and hire them again through some other mechanism.
And the TET case, that also involves around 10,000 teachers. That is also coming up in Supreme Court. So, she is in political trouble. And her political troubles are not our problem. We are supposed to comment, and report on what's happening to the ground and worry about the people on the ground. You have to, like, I generally don't get moved, maybe because, like, whatever the reason, you can see the women crying like there is no one, they're dragging us out of our houses. How is that justifiable because somebody did something? If you cannot protest without violence, then you have no right to protest.
And also, what's the police presence on the ground also, there's just absolute no clarity. Raman, so you were saying?
No, I'm saying that discussing politics of violence has many aspects.
Yes.
Discussing politics of violence does not mean that somebody is trying to wish away the human aspect of it. Human aspect, I mean, if we know, and we are also trying to get a story done, where the reconstruction
on the ground, we stand by for an on-ground report because you want to real report from the ground. So we're trying to get some reporters.
Reconstruction of it. How did it begin with the social media 2 days in advance? How everything happened.
Is that the suggestion, that it was started on social media?
Yeah, because they're saying that the police control rooms received hundreds of phone calls saying that we got this WhatsApp message, we saw this thing on social media saying that X or Y is happening. And that's also how it really
India Today
spiraled.
report said it started with a rumor that a boy, when the protest was going on, a boy or a young man had died while clashing with the police. And this is how, but that was the spark that lit the fuse.
No, there's no clarity as such.
So hopefully we'll get that through our report.
No,
but
but that's the thing, Abhinandan, you said who led the protest, but that is the exact sort of thing that is super missing from all media coverage of
Yes.
it. Right?
Yeah.
It is
All media.
very vaguely we are told a protest was happening, then vaguely it led to 2 men being yanked from their houses and then being killed, but there is very little explanation of how it happened hour by hour and then how it sort of spiraled out of control.
that kind of report
protests don't become riots just like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There is a
And
way
also,
it
whenever
happens.
there's any protest, even if the person is not leading it, even if the person's a WhatsApp group, there are arrests and things happen. But before we say bye to Nirmalya, last word to you. On this violence now, is it safe to assume that the worst is over. Whatever had to happen has happened. And of course, we'll get to the bottom of it. Hopefully, some reports will come out. We'll try to get a report from the ground there. Or is this still something that you think could snowball, considering elections are 10 months away?
See, Abhinandan, I can tell you one thing. As a journalist, I go by concrete terms. No wide-angle visions, especially with a person who has never lost. There were no wide-angle visions with Narendra Modi. Still, he came down to 240. So everybody thought that Modi was a dictator. Mamata is a dictator in a similar way. So the talks we are making here, like the protest, the democracy, she doesn't believe in all these things. She believes only in not losing at any cost. So when religion becomes a soft target, as I told you, it's a very soft ground now in Bengal. And democracy, as he was saying, he's right. Democracy thrives through opposition. It is not for the rulers that democracy thrives.
Right.
The opposition have to behave responsibly. Just by saying, when you know very well that Mamata is appeasing the Muslims and BJP is appeasing the Hindus, the remaining everything is shut off. Where does the police come into picture?
Yeah.
Police got 1 lakh messages. They will not take any action. It is, if everything is state sponsored, then you will have to upload the state. CPIM was uploaded when Mamata took the message to the people that these people will grab your lands. BJP will have to find out a way to say that these people will take away your religion. That is what BJP is trying to, and that is why they are saying this Bengal will become a new Bangladesh.
Right.
So they are taking that message. That is creating further ground and opening up further issues. Murshidabad is just the tip of the iceberg. As elections come,
We'll
such
see more
things
of this.
will go on happening. And Mamata will try to consolidate as much as possible. She will try, she would leave. Even if 2% is left out, the Muslims don't come to vote. Actually, what we find, I have a lot of students in IPAC. They are working. They say, sir, Muslim vote is 21.7%. But when we calculate, we get 33%. What does the BJP do about it? So, this water, how will you control that? I
Right.
can discuss for days and nights on democracy, protest, human civil rights. Mamata is not caring about all these things. She is only looking at the masnad. Even Narendra Modi was looking at that masnad. Unless he was
Which is unfortunate, which is what politics has become. But thank you so much, Nirmalya, for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Before we say goodbye, can we request you to recommend something for our audience that you think would enrich their lives? A book, a show, a film, an article, anything that you think is worth someone's time.
Dr. Partho Chatterjee, my teacher, he wrote a book, The Present History of Bengal.
Okay.
So that's a wonderful book. How the demography is changing and how Bengal will change.
Right. Thank you, Nirmalya. Pleasure having you. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, and on cue, we have our second guest joining us. And before we speak about the Delhi politics of Congress and BJP and the National Herald case, I want to remind you that you must subscribe to Newslaundry, pay to keep news free. You have a QR code on your screen right now, and there's also a link in the show notes below. And I have already done my bit of try to convince you. Now, let me see how creatively Jayashree can give you a reason to subscribe to Newslaundry and to top up our fund for the impunity of India's police series of investigations. Jayashree?
Yes. So I'll keep it very simple, which is that we just spent the better part of 45 minutes talking about Bengal and what happened and why a riot broke out. It shouldn't be this difficult to piece together what is happening in a major state that has seen major violence. But this is how people are struggling because media houses, one, are not spending on ground reporting, and two, they also bend to pressures from political parties and from corporates because that is how they get their ads. So the thing is that at Newslaundry, we have solved both these problems. We've reclaimed the space for independent reporting, which is backed by the public. We have also reclaimed journalism, which is free from all commercial influence. So we want to do more. Raman sir said that we want to send a reporter to Bengal to get ground reports. We want more reports. We want more investigations. We want to cover more states. This is what we're doing in our police impunity project. And this is why we need you to subscribe. So as teams and reporting assignments get downsized everywhere, you can help us upscale. So yes, scan the QR code on your screen and please
in
do
fact,
what you have to do.
We have a report right now on the earlier project, which was the Hindu Rashtra project.
Yes.
From Indore. This is Prateek's report.
Yes.
The link is in the show notes below. So do check out that report. And this report is also financed by our subscribers. It was a special report investigation. I think we did 5 reports on this subject, if
We've
I'm not
got
wrong, Jayashree.
2 out so far. The third is going up and we will have several more to come.
So do check that out and then you can top up this project. Now let me introduce our next guest. Thank you for joining us. You're in Delhi only, Priya?
That's right, Abhinandan. Good to be here.
Yes, Priya Sahgal is the editorial director of NewsX. She hosts 3 shows, The Roundtable, Cover Story, and We Women Want. She also writes a political column for the Sunday Guardian. And she's the author of 2 books that I know of. Any more that I should know of, Priya?
2 political books and one was a social guide to India, do's and don'ts in India. We had a very provocative title saying "Don't Kiss the Bride" because it's for the Western audience, the tourists. So in India, please don't do that. You may do that in your church weddings, but we don't take kindly to that. So stuff like that, advice like that.
So that was not a political book, but
No.
The Contenders was your book on various political leaders of significance across the country.
That's right.
Yes.
Future leaders.
Future leaders, correct. So, the National Herald case, we'll more context will emerge as we discuss this. But National Herald was a newspaper founded by, was it founded by
Jawaharlal
Nehru? Okay, so
Yes.
now many of you in Delhi have seen, what's it, Baba Khadak Singh Marg? No, what's the name of that road? The
Bahadur Shah
Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, where there is the Times House, Express House, and all these newspapers have the tall buildings there. I mean, I will explain more as we move on because I have seen the contracts of at least 2 newspapers, the lease that was given, the lease under which that land was given. The logic was that Jawaharlal Nehru had said, in fact, Bapu used to say that news should not be dependent on ads. So the logic was these plots of land will be given. The building at that time, when there weren't so many buildings in Delhi, 33% has to be used for the news and newspaper, and 66% can be rented out. So the rent can pay for the newspaper. So you're not dependent on ads or any other largesse. And that was the logic. And there were many other clauses in those leases. So basically, that was the logic of all this land. So it's heavily subsidized. We were talking about hospitals, even legacy newspapers given land on that logic. The allegation is National Herald. And now, of course, those buildings and those plots are worth hundreds of crores, if not thousands, probably. And that land, where instead of running National Herald as a newspaper, it had been rented out completely. Hardly any of that office space was being used for the newspaper, and that money was being used for whatever purposes, and that it had been sold to the Gandhi family after taking a loan from the Congress party and all that. So that is the basic context. Now, this is not just true for National Herald, it's true for many papers, but National Herald is the poster child of this warped logic of what the land was given for. On that note, we'll come to the legal aspects, etc., further down. But as far as your take on this, Priya, with the ED coming down, and of course, this is not just in Delhi, in Bombay, in Kolkata, many cities, newspapers got land and plots like that back in the day. In the 50s, I guess this was done in the 50s? 50s and 60s. So, Priya, what do you make of this? It doesn't seem to have rattled the Gandhis, and embarrassingly, Mr. Vadra is still giving bites that if the Congress wants, I'll fight election. I'm like, okay, the Congress saying, no, we don't want. But what do you make of this Herald case? How much fact, how much fiction, how much political, weight does it carry?
Thank you, Abhinandan, for having here. And actually, with everything over here, there is, of course, fact. I will leave it for a legal team to, explain properly. But most of the battles in India are perception. So, what is the perception? What is the messaging that is going on? What is the timing of the case? These are the key issues which have a political bearing on it. One, of course, is, they've got the Gandhis. They started this investigation very interestingly. I was just looking at in 2012, there were allegations and, the case was looked into. That was the time when there was a UPA government in power. Then I think in 2015, the ED said, let's close the case. 2015 is when Modi government has just come in. At that time, 2015, ED said, recommended to close the case, but Subramaniam Swami's filed a petition or whatever it's called to reopen the case, and the case has stayed reopened. The Gandhis were called in for an investigation last year, 2023, where Rahul Gandhi went about 50 hours. Sonia Gandhi also, despite her ill health, did go for a round of questioning. So in terms of perception, the Gandhis did that trek to the ED office, but they also showed they are cooperating with the investigation. And the BJP made much about the corruption allegations, etc. What has happened right now is that a charge sheet has been filed. Now, a charge sheet has been filed. Congress is saying because the court had given them a deadline. Deadline was 8th April. Charge sheet was accordingly filed during that deadline. But the charge sheet holds both Rahul and Sonia Gandhi. They are mentioned in the charge sheet. So now the BJP, instead of saying tainted hai, bail mein hai, ab keh rahe hain charge sheeted hai. Charge sheeted means it's a whole new level of criminal status. When you go abroad, you need to maybe take permission. Charge sheeted means you may not need to take bail because investigation has already happened. Now it will go to trial and judgment. But charge sheeted leaders has its own bearing, as at a time where the Congress, where the BJP is raising the corruption taint. We have them, targeting various leaders from the opposition. The ED being, used for that. I believe there was a question in Parliament also which said that out of 193 investigations of the ED, only 2 opposition cases actually met conviction. Targeting of opposition leaders. So ये सब optics का खेल है more than really the legalities of the case. The Congress, as you said quite rightly, they don't seem so perturbed as they were, but we are told the spokespersons are taking it seriously. Only those who know the case are allowed to comment on it. Abhishek Manu Singhvi being one. We don't have your average spokespersons like on television debates when we call people. They say that we've been told that only a few people will talk, so let's keep it to the legal track, and let's also not add fuel. I think it's a smart move, because they're not going to be adding fuel to the, what's the use of having a debate when the other side mein hai nahi koi to, counter your allegations and this thing. They want to keep the debate on legal matters, and they will nominate the legal people to speak on that. So in countering perception, that is the first step that the Congress really is taking. I don't think, because by now the ED, Abhinandan, is so so badly in the terms of the
Discredited.
public. Tainted.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Get your legal person to defend me. But basically, they've been so badly maligned in the eye of the public. How many people take this case seriously? As the Congress says, कि कोई quid pro quo नहीं हुआ है. How do you know someone is guilty when they've benefited from all these properties? Properties are still in the name of National Herald or Young India or whatever that company is. It's not in Sonia's name or Rahul's name. Young India is a non-profit company, not for profit. So all these allegations are being countered, but does the common public have the time and the patience to listen to the countering, or will they believe that bhai ye to charge sheeted hai? That is the biggest battle the Congress has to fight.
And I think it's also a question of inconveniencing the leadership, right? Because that does make a difference when
Yeah.
you just are all the time thinking how to defend
yeah.
rather than come strategy of your own. But, we were talking about Bengal, before Priya joined us, and how when everything is so flawed, there is no checks and balance. For example, if Manipur hadn't played out the way it did, or Gujarat hadn't played out the way it did, then someone could have made the case for a president's rule in Bengal. But now when you have precedents there, then they'll say, why this? Why? So everything becomes
Yeah.
so compromised. So checks and balances completely fail because all checks and balances are not doing their jobs. So in the same sense, I'll just give our audience one clause which pretty much every newspaper is in violation of. And those buildings are worth, like I said, if not hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of crores.
Yep.
Like the rent of just half a floor of that would be 1 crore a month. That's the kind of space we're talking about. Now, when these leases were given, even 10 years ago, we hadn't predicted AI of what it's doing right now. So one of the clauses in that lease is the newspaper has to print from the printing press. All these buildings have a printing press in the basement. I've seen this. I've
They
seen
had,
these.
they
I've
had.
gone to these basements. I've seen the
Yes.
presses. These presses are Baba Adam ke zamane ki. They can be sold as in the Salarjung Museum as antiques.
Scrap.
So actually, I know for a fact for the last 10 years, I don't know for how much before that, hardly any, if any, newspaper is actually printing out of that press.
Hmm.
All the printing has been outsourced to printing houses that are actually doing the printing. But I know one of the newspapers, what it does is, it has a supplement every Monday. That supplement, which is a 2-page supplement, is printed there. So they have ticked the box of compliance that we are printing, but the paper 7 days a week is outsourced because it is not efficient to print out of those those printing. You cannot print papers. When in the 50s and 60s they hadn't, preempted the internet. So how relevant is it even now? So if you go purely by fairness, all these buildings should be taken back.
Absolutely.
Because none of them are using, but these buildings are worth, like I said, so much money that there are buildings that are not even printing a paper that goes beyond that street. But just to keep the building, a print paper is put, kisi dekho humne paper to print kar diya. And we just know of 3 or 4 big names. So if actually National Herald loses the case, saying that they were not complying with the lease conditions, a smart person like Subramanian Swamy can say, now apply the same logic to every building, and I will bet significant money no building would have honored all the conditions of the lease agreement, not because of any fault of theirs, but because the technological aspects of that lease are irrelevant in 2025.
Right.
But that's unfortunate story of India.
Yes.
There are rules made, they're not relevant today. They meant well at the time. The person has benefited so much. Today, a person who has a building worth 700 crores saying, ab wapas kar do since you're not publishing a newspaper. Koi karega wapas?
कोई भी नहीं
And please tell me how many people here have subscribed to the National Herald or ever read it? I don't know of anyone.
I don't think so.
Can these printing presses not be changed? Like if they're outdated, why can't they change?
They can,
replace those?
but it still isn't an efficient system.
No,
right?
National Herald was working at one point. In fact, I wrote articles initially.
No, of course, back
in
then.
80s.
So it's still
Yeah.
coming out, huh?
It's still coming
No,
out.
it's coming out because you have to get a newspaper out to keep the building.
Building.
Many newspapers are just coming out to keep the building. They're not doing any
No,
serious
they
journalism.
are actually they're just printing 500, 1,000 copies. That's
So
it.
there's so many, and in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, it's a story. Even Chennai, I'm sure, would have the equivalent of a. I keep saying Baba Khadak Singh Mar. Bahadur Shah
All
Zafar
the presidencies, no, I guess.
No, there
But
are many in
this-
Bhopal also. I think we did a story a couple of years ago during the pandemic. The people were running small newspapers just to keep the building and get that government grant.
Right.
Yeah, but I have a question for you, Delhi people. So this, when you're saying the National Herald case, though, but it is a bunch of different cases, right? So there's that money laundering case against the Gandhis. There's also that the CBI's land thing with Bhupinder Hooda, who then died. Isn't there also some income tax thing where they said that Rahul Gandhi didn't declare that he got income from Young Indian or whatever in his income tax filings? So when we say case, is it all these things that are still going on, or is it now only the ED's money laundering case?
And the charge sheet is in the ED money laundering case. But there is that Huda. There are cases that are coming out because people are looking into it. So all these cases are making the headlines. But I think this ED, the charge sheet is specifically the ED case.
Right, but the CBI case and all still exists, right? As far as we know. Even though
think so.
Hooda died in 2021 or whatever.
Yeah, that case, the various CMs gave it a clean chit or took the land back, and once again the Congress CM gave it back to them. Manohar Khattar did. There was a committee appointed which did give a clean chit, but again that has been raked up again. So that is happening.
Huda case is not National Herald.
Yeah, it's a
that is the
different
Gurgaon land,
Right.
given to
एक
Vadra.
दो है, एक तो रॉबर्ट वाड्रा वाला है,
हाँ.
पर एक हेरल्ड को भी लैंड दिया था.
Yeah.
So news organizations still given land. In fact, one of Asia's biggest newsrooms is in Noida. Arnab boasts about Asia's biggest newsroom. Sorry, sir, to go ahead after this, but this whole logic, like, one is the flawed logic of all this land given on terms which are irrelevant in 2025. Printing press, wahin se print hona chahiye, etc., etc. In 2025, when you have the internet, you don't even need like 100 by 500 foot studios. But even today, states are giving land to news organizations saying this is a...
Absolutely.
And so it's just become this incentive system
Yeah.
bereft of any technical logic. You do not need a building that size to run a news operation.
Go to Noida,
Hmm.
Film City. All media houses have got, prominent media houses. They've got their land.
Have we applied?
And some
sir?
of them we
We
never-
must apply. Yogi ji, if we apply, will we get? Please.
and I know that one of the most prominent newspaper, very good newspaper, and they had 2 buildings. They have sold it off. So they
That's
don't even
super.
have, they are not even running their operations.
So you get
From
the
the
land
film
and you
city,
sell it.
yeah.
Right.
No, in this case, in fact, it's very interesting to see if somebody can reconstruct. In 2012, when the UPA was ruling, when the UPA was ruling, the 2G scam came up, and this, of course, National Herald also came up. Now, I mean, when the Congress is ruling, how these cases came up, first of all, we need to, if somebody can reconstruct that, because eventually this built up the entire edifice of, corruption, and it brought down, Congress
UP
government in
government.
2014, UPA government. So I think this is something which is very interesting. And then 2014 onwards, the political strategy of Modi was very clear that just keep them busy in these cases, corruption, criminal cases. So you can see, from 2014 till now, the cases just keep coming up, and it keeps these politicians busy. Now, coming to this National Herald case, the money laundering, ED is looking at the money laundering act. So legally, if we just dissect the entire case, you have 2-3 characters here. Okay, you have Young India, you have ACA, Associated Journal Press, and you have Congress. Okay, now in 2008, National Herald newspaper, it stopped publishing because they had a lot of loans. They didn't have money to pay to
pay
their employees.
Employees.
So and it was escalating every year. So they stopped the operations, and then there was a point of time when this Sonia Gandhi, the Gandhi family, they said, okay, we will
Revive it.
Now, how they are going to revive it? They take a loan from, I'm telling it very simply, but actors are these 3 only. They somehow, they get a loan of 90 crore from the party, Congress party. Okay. Now they get this loan and they pay to ACJ to pay off all the employees,
all the debts, clear them.
provident funds, everything. So you just clear the debts, and they and the company involved is Young India, where these people have got the Young India gets about 76%. They have 76% stakes in Young India, and Young India has got the prominent role in controlling the shares of ACJ. So practically, it stays with ACJ. There's another company which enters, and there were 1,000 people along with Jawaharlal Nehru who had started this National Herald. Now these people have no objection. Motilal Vora was one of them. So they had no objections for Young India being the part of ACJ. So virtually nothing has been sold off. Young India has just come in, and 90 crore Congress had given. Now ED thinks that this is the money laundering. Now the Congress, but we don't know if of these 1,000 people, any one of them has made a charge that Gandhis have misappropriated, the Congress, the party funds. And secondly, whether the party fund can be used for non-party purposes or non-political purposes, that is also not clear under the law.
No, but one question, wasn't there also this, but when you said that we don't know if the originals had an issue, but didn't the original shareholders have some issue? That Prashant Bhushan's grandfather or somebody, he said that the original shareholders didn't get consent for it to pass to Young India.
The consent, no, see, the thing is, that's what I'm saying. The consent was given. Motilal Vora was the president.
He was the representative of all those. So he had given the
So there are 4-5 guys who had given their consent. But nobody of these 1,000, many of them are dead.
No one objected.
So nobody has objected as of now. So we don't know if they have rejected, then
No, but
the
that's
charge
also
sheet
a different
doesn't say.
case. You see that the case is that if someone objects, then it is,
Yeah.
corporate
Yeah.
governance issue. Right now, it is a money laundering issue. And to prove
And
money laundering, they have to show that finally, how did that money get back to whoever it was supposed to get? That
Yes,
there's no evidence
there
of
is
that.
no evidence to it. So
Right.
that is why, I mean, if you see,
It's very vague.
it's extremely vague right now, and misappropriation is something which it doesn't have so much criminal connotation. It can be maybe, the income tax thing will involved out
See,
here.
actually, none of see, if you want to really, if the purpose was to take that building back, they stopped publishing the paper. That is a violation of the lease guidelines. That alone is enough to take the building back. But if that is the only thing they go with, it has no political, corruption angle. And if they go with that, they'll have to take a lot of buildings back. And then all the media people will not, because a lot of buildings there have not published a paper from there. So I think that's why they're going. The only black and white issue is the lease says if you don't publish a newspaper, you were given this land to publish a newspaper. If you're not publishing a newspaper, land back. That is the only black and white thing. Everything else is speculation. And on that black and white thing, they will not act, because then they'll have to act against too many people.
I think if you see in case of Jagan Reddy, where the CBI has filed 10 charge sheets. ED followed up. They also seized all the properties. Telagi case. I mean, take any case. ED has this task of, seizing the but what actually happens after that? That you need to. So it doesn't stay with the ED. ED hasn't auctioned these properties, ever. I think in the garb of prosecution, they are persecuting them
which is
politically. I think this is in one nutshell. I mean, this is the story of.
But before we get back to Priya,
in fact, can I just come? Sorry,
yeah, go ahead, Priya.
Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just want to add to what Raman said in garb of, the political part of it. I met a very senior Congress leader, post UPA 2, and he told me we were all victims of Sonia Gandhi's heightened sense of morality. He's saying on the whiff of a suspicion or allegation, resignations were sought. All the cases that happened, whether it was CWG, Adarsh, the Shashi Tharoor case, Pawan Bansal, Ashwini Kumar, so many that scam tainted UPA 2, unme se ek bhi has not found a conviction. But Sonia Gandhi was so meticulous and so proper that everybody, whoever had that whiff of this thing, she immediately sought their resignation. Today, what is happening is you just do not admit. यहाँ भी scams होते हैं, ये नहीं कि नहीं होते हैं. We saw that what was that Vyapam scam. We've seen that Lalit Modi, Sushma Swaraj. There were allegations, but none of them made it because admit ही नहीं करते. There is no scam. If Prime Minister and all don't admit it, like during COVID also nothing happened, no deaths, no this thing. If you don't admit it, it doesn't exist. So there is no scam.
You don't have
so
to.
This is the.
You don't have to deal with it if you don't accept its existence.
You don't accept it. So then you and I can keep arguing for hai nahi hai. Government तो कहीं they are not admitting it. व्यापम ही नहीं हुआ है, ये भी नहीं हुआ है. सोनिया गांधी जब नहीं हुआ था, प्रूव नहीं हुआ था, तभी से उन्होंने उनका रेजिग्नेशन मांगना शुरू कर दिया. आज देखो कहाँ है. This whole none of the scams have met the light of day.
No,
so this is the strategy of the government which is working.
And not just politicians, even regular folk have learned this. It was started off by this one stand-up comic, I forget his name, but he had done this set after Ranveer Alabhadia, issued an apology for that obscene. He says, these Bombay people are very decent. He says within 2 hours he apologized. He says, Delhi ka hota, he would have said, maine to kiya hi nahi. ये तो AI है, and he said that as a joke. 1 month later, that Punjab pastor, Yesu, when that video emerged of him throwing something at that lady and being violent and abusive, he issued this thing, ये तो AI है, ये तो मैं हूँ ही नहीं.
Although he is convicted now.
Yes, but he is convicted in a separate case. But on that, he said, it's AI, that's not me.
There's one just thing. I mean, that is for sure that Gandhi family has used Congress as its fiefdom. I mean, who gives 90 crore?
Yeah, of course. There's no doubt about
and who is suddenly, I mean, 1,000. Why Gandhis are thinking of becoming the majority shareholder?
Sure.
Why? So that is very clear. But how, whether it is legal or illegal, or whether it is money laundering or not,
that is a separate issue.
This is a very convoluted case, to be honest. I found myself distracted all the time. Like, why am I studying this? So, politically, I would say this. If they are attaching properties, then BJP seems hell-bent on their mission to bankrupt Congress. Because
Hmm.
they did it last year also. They froze their accounts
Yeah,
before the
you have no
election.
money to fight an election.
Yeah. But there is also a silver lining, and I think some people in the Congress seem to realize it, that if they play their cards right, they may use this to their advantage to come back into public perception and limelight that they are being persecuted. About this case, like you said, like it's all like India. There are so many archaic rules which are not being followed, and you are at the mercy of the government. If they
Hmm.
want you in jail, they will keep you in jail.
Hmm.
Like there was a good example that even where liquor is allowed, like liquor is legal, somehow is that you cannot have more than
2 liters of whiskey or wine. I mean, you cannot even have that lying at home.
Yeah, there was one state which was like a
In UP, that's the case.
Yeah, 700 ml you cannot. I mean, the fucking bottle is 750 ml. What are you saying? And the government is selling it to me. If I buy the bottle and bring it at home, then I'm.
You have to first empty out 50 ml. 50 ml दुकान में एक shot मार के आना
Yeah,
है.
so this keeps happening. I have to say one thing though. To be honest, like, who do you trust in this case? I will not deny that BJP is using ED and other agencies to but I cannot deny that when Congress was in power, they didn't make money.
Hmm.
Like, who do you trust in this
No,
case?
I mean, making money is interesting, but come to what you're saying, sir, about the user as a personal fiefdom.
Yeah.
See, politics, as we know, right from the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, he or she who controls the purse strings controls the party.
Yes.
It's that simple. A party that doesn't have enough money to control who gets how much to contest what election,
True.
it falls apart. But what the BJP has managed to do is control all institutions that have access to cash, whether it's the PM Cares Fund, whether it is political bonds,
Right.
electoral bonds, whether it is BCCI. You see, wherever there is a huge pile of cash, whether it is a political outfit or whether it's a sports outfit,
Yes.
they will control the outfit because you can reward people. See, I don't have to reward you from the BJP money, no?
Right.
I can give you a IPL contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wherever there is the money, they control that source.
Yes.
And that is basically how politics is being fought in today's day and age, unfortunately.
The drama about Maharashtra government before these elections was about money because Maharashtra gives you the most revenue.
In fact, I saw this interesting statistic in a discussion on CNN 2 days ago. In US, so there it is a lot more transparent how much you spend on elections. And big money funding elections is something that has been a huge bone of contention there. They've got the data. Out of all elections fought, 90% have been won by the candidate that spent more money. It's that simple.
Yeah.
90%, not 70 or 80. So that's how much of a difference it makes. But before we let Priya go, any other inputs on this, Priya, that you can think of which within the Congress would impact how the Congress works? Is there any money for someone to control the party through purse strings? Or now it's just the brand name Gandhi that controls the party and there's no purse, so there's no strings?
May I add another question
Sure.
for Priya too? There was a detail that Congress, I mean, like the Gandhi family, the accusation is that they took advanced rent of 38 crores. What is that? What is advanced rent? And 38 crore of advance.
That actually was also the case in the Ranbaxy case. I mean, that's a provision where you front load a payment. That happens.
Okay.
It's not unusual.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have much on the 38 crore one. But on the other thing, I think the Congress, it's always the state governments that tend to fund whichever party is in power, which is why Modi, when he was campaigning in Karnataka, said, Inka ATM band karo. So currently they do have at least 3 state governments. Bhupesh Baghel, one of the reasons why I'm told he lost was also because he was asked to fund all the elections from Assam to UP, So it does have its fallback. Congress says it is not a very thing with funds. They are going for a fundraising drive through the organization also. So that it's a lot is left to individuals, because they have a lot of individual chieftains like Kamal Nath. He financed the whole Madhya Pradesh election. Bhupender Hooda. But then you have a problem that these guys then tend to become dictators and do things their way, which is not always the party's way. So Congress will have to figure it out. But apart from the financing, anything else, it is Rahul Gandhi very much in control. I mean, I have people who are, politically speaking, if I may deviate a bit, who are very within the Congress, little disappointed with Kharge, thinking that when Kharge would have come, he was a good, not just a Dalit face, but a leader from the grassroots, someone who would come. So there would be like a two-power center or some kind of an Ahmed Patel sort of a source. But Kharge seems to be more of a yes man. KC Venugopal is running the show, and KC is doing everything that Rahul says. So there is a lot of resentment within the Congress also. But it is Rahul's party. His ideology, he says caste census is the issue, caste census is the issue. He says reshuffle hoga, reshuffle mein unhi ke log aayenge, unhi ke log aate hain. Kharge barely gets a say. So let's see what Rahul does with this party. He's proven that he can, in terms of these allegations, he doesn't get phased down. He meets it head on, and that shows a good, in terms of his own posturing. वो अच्छा है. जेल जाके तो leaders बनते हैं लोग.
Exactly.
So I don't think उनको जेल भेजेंगे. But
I think
in that it's helping his image.
I think on that he's very defiant. But since you mentioned Kamal Nath, should we consider that a career finished over?
I think so. Yes.
There's no
Kamal
coming
Nath
back.
may not agree, but I think we should. I don't see any other, and his son. I mean, the son also lost, now, so that dynasty you can say is
It's done.
I
Done
think
and dusted.
done with for now.
Chhindwala dynasty.
Right. So before you go, Priya, a recommendation that would enrich the lives of our listeners.
I was thinking about it, and what I'm reading or what I'm doing right now. The books today, are so, if I look at in terms of political books, we have this whole alternate narrative business that is going on. So there are so many books on Savarkar, Hegdewar, leaders of Bharat that some rightfully deserve their place and hadn't been mentioned by the Congress. Some, of course, are agenda driven. But I wanted to just hark back to someone who I've always admired, and I've been these days rereading books on Narasimha Rao. We are going through a financial crisis as of now, and someone who didn't have the mandate that Modi has, who didn't even know he was going to be prime minister till the day he was made prime minister, within a month and a half ushered in so many reforms. So I was in fact reading, I have with me this book Half Lion by Vinay Sitapati again, and also a book on Montek Singh Ahluwalia's autobiography, Backstage. I'm rereading it, and there's one line that I really liked where he's quoting a conversation with Chidambaram just before, the liberalization, they reworked the trade policy. And Chidambaram always said, we always had the wings, but we didn't have the courage to fly. He was quoting Johnston Livingston Seagull. But the thing is, that's where we are today. These guys have the mandate, they have everything, they have the public backing, yet we are in this economic mess. So I would ask my viewers, because we are so caught up in this, a lot of our viewers are young. I don't know whether they were there in Narasimha Rao's time, and he's only remembered for Babri Masjid, but his life and times is something that I would urge people to read again and look at it again. And on a personal note, if you'll grant me something, is I'm also recommending your readers to read Georgette Ayres. I lost my mom a few months ago. And I opened her Godrej cupboard, and this is where she had all her Georgette Ayres. And each book, she's written to everybody, please don't steal. Fourth copy, don't steal, because people borrow books and don't return it. So
I absolutely love Georgette Ayres. So such a great recommendation.
So if I may, one political, one lighter reading.
Yes, thank you so much, Priya. And just so our audience knows, this whole rumor of Lutyens, Delhi, everybody knows each other. I've known Priya since I was 12 years old. She was one of my mother's favorite students.
My mom taught me my love of reading, so I really...
So clearly she succeeded somewhere, and somewhere she failed. But thank you so much, Priya. And good luck.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, Priya.
Thank you.
Bye, Priya. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Before I wind up the discussion, a few more inputs about something that I would like to talk about, which is the university issue. Reminding you once again, here's a QR code. This is just a subscription. Pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. And today more than ever, we need journalism that is funded by the public, because we are not getting any land. We are not starting any printing press.
We should have at least
applied. We should have applied. And then we could have done a story.
That would have been a story.
That would have been a story. Had we got it, it would have been a story. Had we not got it, it would have been a story.
Sorry.
And had we got it, then we could have had big subscriber parties over there.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Building बना पाते नहीं बना पाते
building
पता
बना पाते कि नहीं, मैदान कर देते. We would have played kabaddi. We don't know about that. But I just quickly wanted to go around the panel, and I, have most of my recommendations are about, not most, but two at least, are about what's happening in the university situation in the US. We've said this as a joke, and I had suggested to Manisha that we should do a nuisance that how Trump is learning from Modi. But I actually don't think it's a joke. I genuinely think Trump's think tanks are taking a book from what is Modi doing? How did he manage to win again?
Yes.
What they are doing with Harvard is textbook.
Ah.
What these guys have been doing for the longest time.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't know whether you guys have been following this, but how many of you think genuinely, not just as a joke, Trump has actually learned this from us?
No, I follow
Do you
this.
think it's possible?
No, it's not. It is happening. So, I follow this state by state because by default, U.S. systems and politics is way more simpler than India and way more transparent. So, if you look at the discussions happening and how these people overline, and when that Texas rally happened, when Modi,
Howdy Modi.
yes, Howdy Modi. So, if you look at the people who overlap between the Hindu right-wing circle and now Trump helpers.
MAGA.
And what Trump has learned after, not MAGA. MAGA are hair-brand, different kind of stupid. So these are people who are political lobbyists, who are strategists, and they need a job. After his first term, Trump learned that you cannot have people even for propriety. And somehow it's slipping my brain. What's the name of that guy who looks like he's been just beaten up and hasn't taken a bath?
Their health?
The Breitbart guy.
Oh, yeah. Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon, yes. So there are a lot of people, and you see a disproportionate number of Indians there. And that's not because they are aligning with Modi, no. But these political strategists are learning from each other because they see that it's a very...
The best practices, na?
Yes.
They're seeing what are the best, worst practices.
And Trump likes what Modi does because he likes a couple of more people in the world. He likes the North Korea one, right? And he likes Putin. But he cannot do that in US. But what he can do is find pliable people.
And also the biggest democracy.
May I tell you one thing? If you look at the press conference Modi and Trump did when these tariffs thing was going on, for the first time, you see US journalists, there were people who were given entry like the Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband, who were just disrespecting first Zelensky and then asking very pliable questions like Modi mango question. And now people are noticing that...
Exactly. The having Godi media there.
Yes.
I think it's too much of a coincidence. Jayashree, do you think it's too much to think that they're learning from us? I think they are.
No, but also, I mean, see, if you look up things like textbook fascism and all, what happens now is that you'll have that usual, yes, this happened in Germany, this happened in Italy, this happened in Hungary. But you also start seeing things like this happened in India because the CA protests are a very big example of how, they went after Indian students and they sort of position them as anti-national and whatever. So I do think that, I mean, whether he's directly inspired by what happened in India or whether he's following a very natural trajectory of how authoritarianism would work, because going after students is a very easy thing. And university administrations are like extensions of the ruling class, right? They are craven, they are sort of beholden to whoever gives them the most amount of money. So this is just another small little step in that way, is what I think.
I think Modi will blush if he's listening to us.
इतनी compliment एक दिन में नहीं देते.
He had gone to the US and he was welcomed by Elon Musk and his children. Okay, small children. So I don't think he got a very good, welcome. Of course, I mean, the tariff was also raised. In fact, yes, one thing is for sure that Trump is trying to control educational institution and is trying to control media as Modi had done. In his initial years, and he's continuing doing so. But having said that, something which used to play up in my mind, as you used to say that, Abhinandan, that institutions are very strong
In the
in the
US.
US. So after Trump came and whatever little I have seen, I had started doubting that. But now when the Harvard came up, then I again remembered, what you said.
Also, the Supreme
So-
Court, yeah, the
Supreme Court
had
also.
said that
Yes.
they will, everything is a constitutional crisis, like in India,
Ah,
LG versus him. He's disobeying a judge.
yes.
Now the
Yeah.
judge is saying that you tell me how you did not turn that plane around, and I will identify who were the officers responsible and punish them.
Hmm.
There will be one constitutional crisis after the other. Stephen
Yes.
Miller has said
Yeah,
point
Stephen
blank that, dude, we are not going to obey the judges.
Yeah.
Called for the impeachment. So I think that is something that Modi has been doing for the longest time. So, and whether it is a foreign policy coup, we have to accept that Trump is very disrespectful and dismissive of every leader across the country. But he doesn't treat Modi that way.
So,
He doesn't name him. He doesn't,
Yes.
he's.
But is it also because he doesn't think Modi is important enough to really engage in that right now?
No, I don't
Is
think
some-
so.
Yeah.
I think I think he names other countries. He takes countries by name. He also named India though.
yes.
But considering India is such a big player in world markets, I think there definitely is an affection there, which is whether it's good for us or not is a separate matter. But yes, Modi is on the right side of
But
Trump.
you have
So
2% of Indian votes also there. No?
I'm not sure that's enough
I
to
don't know
swing an
that.
election.
So I want to make a distinction. When Ramanthal said Modi is not on a higher scale or it's not above in that strategy. Trump is a different animal than Modi. Modi is way more wily and shrewd, but Trump has way more power at his hand. His
Of
base
course.
is way more loyal. Like our
Yeah.
politics is way more complex.
Yeah, also,
So our strategists are helping him, and you will see whenever he talks about India and what India is doing, he makes a distinction that I do like Modi though. And that political affinity is very apparent because this Twitterverse and their bases are interacting with each other.
I'm
each
sure
other,
they are,
and that
exactly.
feedback loop is going. That we can learn from these people and they can learn from us.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is some mutual learning happening there. So on that note, as you know, we have a new way of addressing the emails and the letters that you send. One of the Hafta panelists curates 4, 5 or 6, depending on the length of the emails or the letters that come. The rest are collected. Every 6th episode, we will have one Hafta letters and feedback special where all of them can be addressed without rushing through them. So today, the curation is being done by Jayashree. You can write to us at podcasts@newslaundry.com. I repeat, podcasts@newslaundry.com. Or you can click on the link in the show notes below. There'll be a pop-up and you can just fill in your feedback there. Please keep it below 150 words so that we can include as many as possible.
Right. So I have removed one of the letters I picked because it is for Anand Vardhan, but Anand is not here. So I think we will
Yes.
save that for him. So the first letter is from Perisai Teja, who says, like many others, I too feel Hafta has turned into an echo chamber, everyone basically agreeing with everybody else, like in the case of tariffs. Economic theory is ever evolving. Oftentimes, what theory claims is opposite of the lived experiences of people. I look forward to such nuanced cross-questioning to be done by guests too. Number 2 shows the Hindu Rashtra project has been fully funded by 7.7 lakhs, but only one story to show for it. Kindly address this. And number 3, regarding NL Sena on police, the Hindu has done a wonderful interview with retired IPS officer Prakash Singh to understand the police perspective. There were many shades of grey. Why is NL not doing such interviews? I understand politicians in power won't want to be questioned, but outside of this, there are many well-meaning, honest individuals who are willing to engage. I also missed the earlier I agree with series of NL.
So
Okay.
we now from one Perry, I think now there are 3 stories already up. 2 are up. One is going to go up by this
Which
weekend.
one?
On the
Hindu
Hindu Rashtra
Rashtra.
project.
Hindu Rashtra, the one story, and the second is up today. And the third one is going to come on Monday.
Right.
And there's one, we had gone to Gujarat. So Gujarat stories will also start coming. It's one big
Yeah.
Gujarat picture.
It'll be a series. So
Is,
Perry, there'll be about
which is documentary, in fact, half an hour. So that is going to come up. And then we are doing mostly the video stories.
right.
Just one text story from Madhya Pradesh. The rest are going to be
Yeah.
video.
So I think when Perry wrote the mail, 1 had gone up. When we've
Now
read the
it's
mail, 2 are up. By the time this show goes online, 3 will be up. So yeah, that's been addressed.
But also the reason for the delay was also because I think the Delhi election came somewhere along the way, which is
In the
why
middle, yes.
things
Videos
are only
take
starting
time.
now.
Yeah,
So,
videos, that's
Ah.
fine. I mean, these are not
Yeah.
breaking news stories. They have to be done in depth. I mean, that our subscribers understand as long as
Yes.
it's thoroughly done.
yeah.
Yes.
And the second thing you wanted to address was what?
Prakash Singh is the one who had done, who wrote a report on the police reforms.
Yes.
Okay, and which is I think now 20 years old, which is the most quoted report every
Yeah.
time when something goes wrong, whether the police I think and things are going wrong. Nothing his recommendations have also not been followed,
Yeah.
and he has been interviewed a number of times.
Yeah.
So I think
There has to be something new, Perry.
the ground stories.
A
These are
ground
the
report.
important ones.
Sure, I mean, we can do that interview as part of this once we have some.
We'll do that.
But, I mean, Prakash Singh has been on several panels. He's been interviewed several times. I mean, I think he said all that he has to say. I was actually with him at an airport. Both of us were on a panel. And our flight was delayed. So we were just sitting and chatting for about an hour and a half or two. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot he said. But of course, a lot of that he told me at the airport. He will not say on camera. So it's underwhelming for me also to interview him after that.
And no, besides, if you just see our stories of police atrocities or some crime stories, you will see his quotes over there because our reporters have spoken with him.
Right.
And you will also see the reference of his report,
Right.
police reform report, which we keep doing in our explainers as well as in our text reports.
Yeah, and that judgment came in
Yeah.
2007. It's been 18 years.
Yeah,
So
no
he's been
one's-
asked that question many times.
Right. So the next email is from Manan Shah, who says, "Hi Manisha, Abhinandan. Because of Piyush Goyal's remark on startups, there's been an outpouring of complaints against the government and government employees about issues faced by startups. From basic bribery to power supply disruption to unnecessary harassment, everything. To me, through the constraints of my social media, it seems there's enough proof and talk by so many startup founders, some very successful, that this is an actual issue that everyone agrees on. Now, what is the actual way of seeing any change? Like in the light of how things work in India, if a group of citizens want to solve this, what's the most practical way to solve this? According to your experience, whatever you've seen in your journalistic experience."
Policy change when it comes to stuff like this can only be solved by lobbying at a very high level. Even voting in and out governments is not as effective as lobbying at a level where some big industrialists, speak with the framers of policy and say, ease this, ease that, do this. But right now, because of the kind of hold that Narendra Modi and Amit Shah have over the country, policy will only change if it benefits the BJP. It has no economic rationale. I've said this for the last 15 years, ever since Hafta has been around. I do not believe Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah have an economic project. It is a social project. It doesn't matter what happens economically. So, and you can see this week's nuisance have addressed this only.
Start.
I do have one thing to say though on generally on startups in India, which is that so I feel people keep saying, "Oh my God, but Indian startups aren't like innovating enough, or we have no focus on science and research." But for me, it's like this duality of India, right? Which is that you have this sliver of this elite population, which is spending tens of millions of rupees or whatever, and then you have 1.5 billion poor people who can't spend at all. And it is only once a good chunk of people are comfortable that a society can, at a very broad level, start to look at things like deeper innovation and science. And for all the complaints that you can have about China, that is what China has done over the decades. So even in the early days of Deng Xiaoping, I remember reading Vikram Seth from Heaven's Lake, where he says the average Chinaman is better off than the average Indian. And this was in the 1980s. And the situation has only become worse over like the last 40, 45 years. So the median Chinese person is way better off than your respective Indian. And therefore in India, when millions are struggling, only once that is fixed can society sort of think of higher pursuits like innovation,
And
science.
this is
So right now what's happening with startups is they're trying to get money out of a handful of elites in the fastest way. And I mean, this is the approach all over the world, but I think in India it's even starker.
this is grossly wrong to ask startups to do their R&D. When the Indian government itself, if you see their
Yes.
budget over the past years, I mean, forget BJP, even Congress also, how much money have they spent on R&D? They haven't.
Yeah, I think we made this point last week, right? I mean, the research and the tendency and impetus to ask questions is a it's not a switch of on and off. You have to inculcate the culture, you have to give space, and of course research is part of luxury. If you have everything taken care of, then you'll innovate. If you're worried about where the next week's ration is going to come, then you have no mindset to innovate.
Yes.
Next is from
Jin
Kazama, who says, I was slightly disappointed with the entire panel not knowing who Lex Friedman was. He is one of the few who's interviewed Trump and Zelensky and now Bal Narendra. He's one of the many offshoots of the Rogan sphere. But if we're keeping an eye on US politics and general zeitgeist, he is one of the key people. I hope this isn't too harsh feedback, but it does appear that the panel still thinks US mainstream media is expected to be the primary source of news. The reality is that just like in India, if you have to follow news, it's the independent outlets that have more credibility. The same is the case in the US. Here are a few names. Dropsite has done some stunning work. Israel recently killed their journalist in Gaza. Breaking Points is brilliant. There's Zeteo by Mehdi Hassan. And channels like Minority Report by Sam Sedo, etc., which are also much better than the traditional media.
Yes.
Which is just partisan, and this is just a suggestion.
Thank you, Jin.
So,
I included this letter because these are all great recommendations.
So, may I address this? One, congratulations on Jin Kazama. For those who know, Jin Kazama is a protagonist character in Tekken series.
I see.
It's a game.
So he's a gamer like you.
Yeah, yes. And I think there is another letter from him which is written by Hiyachi Mishima. So Hiyachi Mishima is Jin Kazama's grandfather.
I see.
So, and what he says slightly, panel, I am slightly disappointed that you think we don't know Lex Friedman was. Lex Friedman is a guy, if Hitler was alive, he'll ask, what is your positive points about concentration? That is what Lex Friedman is.
I see.
To be honest with you, he would ask that. Sam Cedar is great. Sam Cedar is one of the most honest commentators on US politics. I disagree about Breaking Points because Sagar... So Breaking Points is by two people. Crystal Ball, she fought in democratic elections also, and Sagar. Sagar is a Trump supporter. Now he's disappointed, but he was supporting Trump.
Sure.
So, but they're fine. They analyze things. We do... one more thing I'll say, that Rogan's fare is not that great, but yes, your point is well taken that we should look at more people who commentate on US politics. But yeah.
Next, Unnati, who says, large gratitude for NL's excellent journalism every day. It's been instrumental in shaping my politics, reflecting on the importance of independent media. Thanks to your thoughts, I'm an MBA student interested in journalism business models that uphold journalism's mission. I'm curious how you think about it. Number one, what is NL's journalism mission? How does the business model solve for it? And where does it miss versus win? How do you evaluate that mission served across different channels, website, YouTube, podcast, etc.?
So we'll take two at a time because she's got 6. So let's do these two first. NL's journalism mission is accurate on-ground reportage. It's very simple. There's nothing new as far as that's concerned. It's just that no one does that anymore because commentary became more profitable, because hits became more important. And the business model solves for it is that people tend to not pay for opinion. They'll pay for ground reports. So that is how it kind of feeds into the other. Where is it a hit and a win? Miss? I don't think there's much of a miss. The miss is that you can't scale as fast, but that's not really miss, because if you try to scale fast, you will not end up doing journalism. How do you evaluate the mission is served across different channels? We don't really go for how many hits it got. If it gets shared, great. And you don't have to be the biggest domino, but if you, like, for example, we broke the Ram Janmabhoomi land case and it was taken up by bigger channels. It was also debated on India Today's, they had a discussion on that as well. So even if you are the first trigger, that's good enough as far as we're concerned. We don't want to be the biggest, but if something we do causes the ripple effect, that's good enough.
Biggest part, I mean, if it happens, fine. But with limited resources, we try to come up with factual reports.
Cool. Then what is the audience you see across different channels? Number, type, monetization potential. And with the subscription model, what is easier to do? What are the pain points? What is unchanged?
One is, the demographic, I will not get into it, but it's typically between, on YouTube, young people, overwhelming majority are young people below 30. Our subscribers tend to be between 25 and 50, usually above 30 because they have earning capacity. And unfortunately, an overwhelming majority of our audience and subscribers is male. We are not unique in that. That seems to be the news demographic, news consumption demographic across any news platform.
With subscription model, what's easier? Pain points unchanged.
Subscription model is you're not dependent on one or two pillars. Like if 5 corporations withdraw advertising, a news organization could collapse. And very famously, a very good and honest editor had said this, Vinod Mehta. He said, I can't take on everyone together. You know, Tata's withdraw ads.
Yes, yes.
I can only. Whereas all of us, I have said things that have pissed off dozens of subscribers, and I get mails. Oh, you're a dick. I'm withdrawing my subscription. But if 20 go, 200 come. So
Yeah.
we are unafraid to give our point of view, because no one point of view will make the whole edifice collapse.
What other models appeal to you? Is global audience a consideration? And what is your dream project?
Global audience is not really consideration. Yeah. It's Indian audience. We do Indian politics maybe. Dream project kya hai sir aapka? You have a dream project.
See, you are as good as your last story. So whatever our last story was, now we are chasing many more. So I think this dream will go on.
I'll tell you my dream project, and I think I said it on Hafta before, and I'd like to do this myself as the host of the show, in search of Narendra Modi's classmates.
Oh,
I want that to be a documentary, and I had discussed that earlier with production. I was like, if I were to start, so my dream project is, here I am in Valsad. He's from Valsad, right? Where he said often. This is where he was born. This is where he went to the first school, and I just go house to house. It's like
your documentary will dive.
That is superb,
a 1 hour documentary where I am trying to find out one boy who sat next to Mr. Modi in class, in school, in college, one professor who taught him, one professor. That is my dream project. I think it'll make a phenomenal documentary film. It'll be funny, investigative, ironic, but it requires a lot of time, and I have to sit here and sign checks.
Since you have already revealed it, now the social media will start working on his classmates and his professors, and you will find all of them.
I don't know, say if they would have come forward by now. I mean, there's so many classmates of all the others that have already said I went to class with so and so. But anyway, it's going to be an expensive one.
Cool. So next email is from Purana 4G subscriber, who says Goa is being primed to be the next Manipur. There's rampant fear and hate mongering amongst outsiders being pushed by Instagram handle. He's given a link. While there are incidents of misbehavior by tourists and outsiders, this channel is singularly responsible for making locals very aggressive towards non-Goans. I told the state recently, it's clear to see the anger when locals see a non-Goa registered vehicle or a black number plate rented vehicle. I'm not saying there's no problem, but this channel is clearly working towards a larger goal. See the comment section, you know what I'm saying. Maybe this can be investigated. Also, Jayashree's comments at a certain point in Hafta 5 to 8 were so true, that we are unsporting when we win, we are unsporting when we lose. This attitude is what led to the Mao Indore violence. The insecurities of the masses is the vehicle.
Right. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, last email, Vatsal, who says, I agree Bollywood is using present sentiment to look at history and churn money with movies like Chhawa. I think it's how the public and the media reacts, particularly to a movie that plays a major role. To be fair to a filmmaker, there is a disclaimer in Chhawa that's based on a novel and that it's not historical record. Yet it's riled up emotions in this way, which shows the state of popular imagination in the country. From a filmmaking perspective, I think the producer has a right to make an imaginative, fantastical story without much worry about historical accuracy once they've given that disclaimer. Think of the movie 300. Everyone knows the Battle of Thermopylae was folklore, not history, and Persian King Xerxes was not an 8-foot-tall god like man dressed only in jewelry, nor did the Spartan army have 300 men on TRT and steroids. But it added to the tone of the story and the screenplay, which should be taken for that purpose only. I mean, I love the idea that the Spartan army were 300 men on steroids and TRT, but badly not.
Yeah, no, like that's a comic book essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, see, I agree that, they put in a disclaimer, they've done their job. And also it is shocking that the public is mostly running with it. Like, I thought even the maker of Chhawa could not predict what would happen with that entire gold rush. And then the Archaeological Survey of India saying, yes, we will also investigate it. Things sort of spiral out of control.
Yeah.
But
India is a different audience also.
I mean, somebody brought horse into the movie theater. Oh, तेरे को कोई काम नहीं है क्या यार?
Really?
Yes,
Horse in a
yes.
theater? I didn't see
He
this.
dressed up in that attire and came on ghoda.
Wait, he dressed as a horse.
No.
No, he
no, I'm
he
not
got
talking about
a horse
pantomime. He dressed as in that historical attire
and
of
came to the
Maratha.
cinema on a
He
horse.
brought
Yeah,
in
yes.
a
horse.
Yeah, and came inside the cinema on a horse or a mare, I'm not sure, but
Right. Okay. So let's get the recommendations for the week. You want to go first, Jayashree?
Yeah, so my first recommendation is by this chap called Michael Hobbs, which he wrote this on his Substack. He wrote a couple of years ago, but I read it quite recently. So he says for years now, there have been very panicked headlines and features warning Americans about the threat of an increasingly illiberal left. Thousands of words are dedicated to the same arguments, the same low-stakes anecdotes, the same tortured historical analogies. He says this entire moral panic is absolute bullshit, and he's explaining to you how to spot it, as told through two example pieces, one published in The Economist and one in The Atlantic. So the story is called The Methods of Moral Panic Journalism. Scare stories on left-wing illiberalism display a familiar pattern.
Right.
And one companion piece I have for this is in Current Affairs magazine, which debunks all the terrible arguments posited in The Atlantic. This is called The Atlantic is the Worst Magazine in America. So yeah.
So
So I suggested this Harvard thingy, and there are two more. In fact, both articles came out in Express today. I wanted to suggest just one, but the second one is also relevant since we have spoken about Congress. The first is Express has started a series from today, 75 years of independence, and a very beautiful story about a person who in British India fought the sedition law, and then in independent India he fought the same law against the Congress. So it's a very
that's interesting.
beautiful story of this person who comes from Bihar, and I think this is first of the series, and many more I think are going to come. I think I would suggest the entire, because they plan it very well, being part of Express for many years. So
the
they plan it
reportage
very
is well planned.
So this is a beautiful story. And the second is Suhas Paliskar. He wrote on the Congress recently had its convention in Gujarat. I mean, he sees nothing coming out of it. Even I don't see anything coming out of it. I mean, we are saying that this may benefit. I mean, only the miracle can, because you can't say only, what do you see? Now, initially I liked Rahul Gandhi, going to a blacksmith and doing his work. I mean, he's trying to, make those reels and those videos, and he thinks that this is how he's going to gain popularity.
Yeah, that's not how it
But
works.
initially it appealed, but now
it's not.
It has become a.
You need a bigger ground game, right?
So I don't see their state governments doing anything which is worth noticing. I mean, look at Karnataka.
Right.
And what have they done which we should take note of, living in Delhi? So I don't think Congress has any plans, any ideological, strategy or political strategy to win in future. Only a miracle if it happens, if people are dead against, the BJP. I mean, forget Modi, so they won't go against, but they're dead against BJP. Maybe Congress stands a chance. Otherwise, Suhas Paliskar, good article today.
I have two recommendations, and both of them would be a bit uncomfortable. So, first is Avdesh's story on the caste discrimination at cremation grounds, Shamshan Bhumi. And it shows a window into our society which nobody wants to look at. When people look at it, they don't want to acknowledge it, or if they acknowledge it, they want to forget it as soon as possible, because it shows you a part of our society which is not very endearing or even comfortable to watch. But it's a reality which people deal with. A lot of people deal with every day. It's a good report. You'll find it in Hindi and English both. The second is, so I'm in a lot of pain these days, so I was trying to distract myself, and I found a documentary, and I don't know how I missed it. It came 12 years ago. It's called Blackfish. And
I think I've seen this. What's it about?
You must have. It was nominated for BAFTA when it came in 2021. It's about
see.
orcas in confinement.
Yeah.
And
It's that SeaWorld one, right? Or is
Yes,
that
Yes, I remember this.
about Telecom. And it shows you why that specific orca killed a trainer and two before that. And you should look at it, and I would say that human beings deserve every misery and violation and
Dear
imaginable
God.
that nature brings on us. We are such
Because
a
of what we have done.
we do so much.
Jayashree, you have
Yes.
a keen competition in the pessimism department.
Oh, I am not
Okay.
pessimistic. I am just nihilistic now. Like, we do so
He's
much,
right, though.
so much
He's right.
cruelty in the name of just entertainment, just because we can.
Hmm.
And
Although-
do it within your species, but
No, not that I'm justifying it, but I'm just saying that the only other species that actually kills for fun, ironically,
yes,
is
dolphins.
the orca.
Yes, but we are not killing; we are exploiting.
No, of course. I was just saying. I'm not saying we should kill orca for that, but they say that nature.
What are you propagating on this podcast?
No, I'm just saying that it just
Things have
ironically,
taken a turn.
I just suddenly I read this like day before yesterday that like lions, hyenas, etc. They don't hunt for fun.
Yes.
They will hunt when they're hungry.
Yes.
Otherwise, the only animal who hunts for practice
Yes, for fun.
is the orca.
So
Fascinating.
So I'll tell you the reason. In fact, the documentary goes into it a bit. Their emotional in the limbic region of the brain is much bigger than ours. So they also feel emotions, and that's not the only species. The primates do it also, although we are a primate. But chimpanzees and bonobos also do this.
But not for fun. That is for territory.
No, they do it for fun also.
Oh,
They,
really?
the chimpanzees rape too.
For fun.
Yes.
Oh,
I thought dolphins are the ones that.
No, dolphins
rape
do it.
and all.
But dolphins are way more smarter. If you look at what they do with pufferfish, bichari pufferfish, like you
I
see.
see.
But
So,
anyways,
my recommendations are very far away from all this. One is I thought it was an interesting editorial in The Economist on MAGA's remaking of universities could have dire consequences for higher education, innovation, prosperity, and freedom. I think it's a very important read. And I think if you read it, if it's not your country, then you can look at your country in a more objective way. Because if even people who are well-meaning, their politics is okay, JNU has a very negative connotation for many people.
Yeah.
And as do many. So if you just read this, you don't have a dog in the fight, you don't have a stake in the game. This is what happens when. So I think it's very interesting. And the second is, I heard this podcast to get a interesting take on China on the Ezra Klein show with Tom Friedman, why Trump could lose his trade war with China. And Tom Friedman gives his first-hand experience of having traveled to China over decades and understanding just how solid and robust their systems are. But it also triggered, and I've mentioned this podcast, this article in the past, where the Economist had predicted China's collapse twice. Once in 2004, once in 2015, and right now we're in 2025, and China is still alive and kicking and very powerful. In fact, the 2004 article was called The Great Fall of China. The 2015 article was called The Great Fall of China. And both, except that the 2004, the headline had a question mark. In the 2015 article, it was a statement. So I just find it fascinating. If you study American mainstream commentary on China, it is so influenced by its internal politics and what they wish China to be perceived as.
Yes, exactly.
So I just think it's a great exercise to go back and see. And I don't think Economist is a non-serious magazine. I think they have very smart people. They have very interesting and often insightful, takes on things. But when you just see China as an example of how Western media, whether it's the British Economist or whether it's the American New York Times, has taken China's growth engine and it puts things in perspective. But net, dude, we cannot compete with that country. So I think that is something that the Indian audience must understand, because this thing, na, sikha denge, ye kar denge, wo kar denge, dude, it's like, one of us stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson. There's no chance. So we'd like to thank our wonderful producers Ashish and Priyali, our wonderful sound recordist Anil. Thank you, Shardul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raman sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jayashree. Thank you, dear
Thank you.
audience. Do subscribe.
Hello.
We leave you with this song. Have a great weekend. We shall see you next week. Bye bye.